Every single DM with a YouTube account and a camera has done this video. Now it's my turn. I may have gotten a little salty in this video. Sorry. Hello everybody, welcome to DMNoob.com. My name is Mike and I am the DM Noob. I would like to welcome you to the latest video in our series about tips from the new guy to the new guy. I wanted to put this particular video together because this is the first in one of the real serious topics. Like I said, it's something that every video out there, every video series on D&D out there has this video. Everybody's done this video. So why would I want to do it? Why would I want to do the video on problem players and how to deal with them? I think because I've been in business, I've been in magic, and I've been in a lot of things before in my life, and it's given me a unique skill set to help with stuff like this. How to deal with problem players is strikingly similar, I've found, to how to deal with employees that are a problem, or more importantly, in the magic field with audience members that can be a problem. And we're going to cover three different kinds that there's a lot to deal with, but I'm going to tackle three in this video. Number one, the meta. Probably the biggest bane of any of us is the meta. And so that's number one. Number two, I want to talk about the distracted player. And number three, I want to talk about the timid player and how to help them. But first, I want to cover the cardinal rule for dealing with anybody in a situation, in a group situation like this, be it DM, be it an audience member, be it a team member at your work, whatever. There's a cardinal rule that comes in two parts, but it's the biggest. Number one, no matter how bad the situation, you never, ever, ever call them on their shit in front of the group. You always do it privately. There are exceptions to that, but we'll talk about those, but you never call them on their shit in front of the group. Number two to that rule is this is all about conversation. It's never about bad-mouthing them or giving them crap or something like that. It's always going to be about the conversation. It's always going to be about being in a comfortable spot with them and working with them. So you never want to use the dice against them. You never want to be the overlord DM who's going to destroy a player. This is not a you against them. This is their game. You're there to help guide the story. You're not there to ruin their day. And you're certainly not there to embarrass a player or make them angry, because if you call out somebody, all you're going to do is hurt them, and you're going to look like a fool. So if you're into being, the group asshat, go ahead, but I recommend against it. So let's get started with the one player that nobody likes. The meta player. Now, for those of you who don't know what a meta player is, some of you new DMs might not have run into this before. Those of you who have, you know what an issue this can be. The meta player is the guy in your group who, you're going through and you're, let's say you're leading into this. I use this in most of my games because this is a brilliant little adventure that is fantastic for bringing your characters up, getting them built, getting them to where you want to be before you introduce them to Strahd or a dragon or something like that. This is a brilliant one. And then you'll get started and you'll get a player who has chosen to read the whole thing and is going to call you on every little piece. You're going to be in the cave and you're going to be fighting off the bugbear, and you're going to have that player who's, that bugbear should have been in chamber 3 instead of chamber 7. And if I read it right, he had 40 hit points when you were playing it, where in fact he only has 30 hit points if you read the book. And let me give you a parallel. In the Magic community, it's the same kind of person who, when you finish the show, will come up to you and say, I know how you did that. Now, this is definitely not for a kid's show. I don't do kids shows anymore. Kids shows suck, and that's a whole other discussion. I am a shit kids magician. I perform for adults. But you'll get that kind of person, oh, I saw how you did that. And that's just like the meta player. Now, the response that you are hoping and wanting and desiring to give them is, fuck all the way completely and totally off, you stupid asshat. Tempting, isn't it? But that is not the way to approach this. I'm going to give you an example of how this works in the Magic community, and then we'll translate it over. Because I've had this happen. I'd be at a show, and I'd have somebody come up to me afterwards and say, I saw how you did that. Now, again, if you tell them, go eat a bag of dicks, here's what's going to happen. They're going to go out to the foyer or to the bar or to the lounge, wherever, where everybody's meeting afterwards, and they're going to tell everybody exactly what they saw and exactly how you did it. And they're going to make your life hell. Plus, you look like an idiot. Not for screwing it up or not for flashing the trick or anything like that, but just for being a complete and total idiot. And just for being a jerk. You don't want that. You don't want that with a meta player either. You have a meta player and you say, go eat a bag of dicks, and they're going to continue to call you on it, and they're going to continue to be a problem, and they're going to badmouth you to the other players, and you are going to be the asshat. You're going to be the douchebag. So how do we avoid this? In the Magic community, I would approach this player, or this audience member, and I would say, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the feedback. That gives me something to work on. That kind of feedback helps me get better, because now I know what I need to work on to make that a little bit better. Invariably, this person will then become the kind of guy who's like, I won't tell anybody. And they'll be your confidant. They'll be a friend to you about it. And they're not going to go badmouth you to everybody. They're going to be cool about it because you were cool with them. And I feel approaching a meta player is the same thing. When you have a meta player who's coming at you and say, oh no, you screwed this up. It should be that way. It should have been 3 D6s instead of 4. Fuck off! Nope. What I have done with players in the past is I have talked to them and said, I appreciate your feedback with this. I'm going to be doing my note session and my planning session. Would you like to maybe hop on a phone call with me and chat with me for 20 minutes about it? I'd love your input. And then state you did it because this is how you felt it should have been. You are in charge of the game, and make that known. Don't be a dick about it, but make it known. I did it that way because this way, that way, I am in charge of this game, and that's how I chose to run it. But I would like your feedback on some of this other stuff. That person then, as annoying as they could possibly be at times, will become a confidant. They'll become a friend to you, and they'll become a resource, because odds are they know that adventure better than you. So even though in my games, every time we've played this, it hasn't even been close to what's in this book. My players will tell you that my games are different. I go in very odd directions with these, and so it's difficult for them to try and meta me out because they have no clue what's coming. But it's something that can be such a pain in the ass with a meta player, and that, I feel, and I've experienced, is the best way to handle it. The distracted player. This, to me, is the biggest pain for me, and it's my fault. I'm going to tell you that right now. Distracted players, I do have them at the table at times. It's my fault. Now, the reason I say that is because there's been a lot of times where, well, let me put it this way. If you come to my game and you're expecting a dead serious straight by the book game, you're in the wrong place. That is not how we play, and it's sure as hell not how I DM. My games are very off the cuff. Hijinks and things ensue, and shenanigans take place. And being an early DM, I would let my players get away with anything, just about anything they want. Now, I like to do that. I like to let my players run wild and run free, because if they've had these amazing creative ideas, I let them go for it. The problem is that later on down the road, if you let them get away with everything and you don't put your foot down ever and say, absolutely not, they will continue to do so, and they will make your life hell. Now, that's part of the game, and that you deal with separately, but one of the problems that comes from it is the distracted player, and I've run into two different kinds. Now, any of my players, you guys are not the culprits, I promise you. Those of you who are my current players, I'm not talking about you guys. If we've had an issue, we've talked about it. If I have not talked to you about it, we have not had an issue. So please don't take it as that. But distracted players, and I've run into two different kinds. Number one is the kind who is there because they're there for the social aspect of it, and they're there just because they feel like gaming, or they're there with a friend or something like that, and they're going to spend their whole time on their phone, doing this and that. Or they're going to be reading through the books or talking with their friend about the last game they played, or what they watched on Westworld the night before, and all that kind of stupid shit, and they'll do everything but pay attention to dialogue and to what's going on. And what's the worst part of that is when they're distracting the other players. Total pain in the ass. But I deal with this, again, very similar to how I would deal with an audience member who just isn't in it. I've had audience members who would literally be sitting taking a phone call in the show. I used to handle it differently, and I actually handled it kind of poorly back then. What I would do is I'd stare at them till they were done. And they'd be like, oh, I got the cookies. Yeah, if you get the beer, I'll be there tonight. And I'd stare at them. I'd stop the show and stare at them. And then everybody else would be staring at them, and they go, oh, shit, gotta go, bye. And then they pay attention. Now, in extreme situations in your game, this will work. And I have done this, where I have flat out stopped the game and waited for them. It's rude, but it drives the point across. I probably wouldn't do it anymore. I have new techniques. One of my favorite is I drink lots of water. And if I see players getting distracted with a conversation, I do it this way. You know what? We've been playing for an hour. Let's take a quick 5, take a potty break. Anybody who needs to go get a quick Nikki fix or something like that, go ahead if you guys want to finish up your conversation, and then we'll get back to the game. Super quick, super easy. Not really offending anybody, but hopefully they'll get the picture at that point. Hopefully they'll be like, I should probably pay attention. Now, if it continues to be a problem, then you pull them aside after the game. You talk to them and say, look, I'm happy to have you in the game. I love having you here, but I need you to be a little more focused and not distract the other players when we're in the middle of stuff. Save it for break or save it for after the game if you'd be so kind. And again, that goes back to, it's all about conversation. Just talk to them. These little things will help. But if it continues to be a problem, just have that conversation and don't be afraid to. You're the DM. Don't be afraid to have these conversations with them. Because if you let stuff fester and go on and continue to be a problem, pretty soon you've got a very sour group of players who do not want to play anymore. And who wants that? I want to play. The other kind of distracted player I've had is itchy nose, is the hugely distracted, over-enthusiastic player. Now, we've been in situations where some very serious stuff was going on. I'm launching into some dialogue that's really important, and a particular player or another player or something will have sat on their phone or on their computer the whole time on D&D Beyond or on something like that, and say, oh, well, what about this? I think that when we get to the next thing, we should buy this. Do you think it's all right if I get this or that? And in the middle of dialogue, in the middle of situations, I have no problem with these conversations. That it drives the game, but there's a time and a place for those conversations. And again, it's up to you to guide these people with that. If it is a problem, talk to them about it. And I have had to talk to players about this. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but uncomfortable conversations come with the game if you want it to continue. So talk to the distracted player and say, you know what, let's focus, and on break time or on, when it's time to do these kind of things before or after the game or during wrap-up time, then let's talk about this. But for the moment, let's stick with the game. Take a quick note, we'll talk about it. Now, I have had players who have just interrupted dialogue, flat out interrupted dialogue. And I'd be one of the NPCs and talking about a very serious situation or something that's coming or a task or something, and a player would literally stop and ask the most completely irrelevant bullshit fucking questions. And the rest of the table really frustrated. And so how I've been handling this lately is I just look at them and go, sweet, let's talk about it after. That's it. And it stopped the problem. And then get back into the flow. Now again, if this continues to be a problem, talk to them. Don't call them on their shit in front of the group. Don't be like, will you shut the fuck up? You're driving me so up the wall, I'm getting vertigo. Shut up. Again, you're just going to look like an idiot. Okay, you're going to look like a total asshat in front of the entire group, and you're going to lose players. Which kind of brings to one of the big points that it's very nasty business for a DM. Occasionally, you have to kick a player. And I've had to do this, and it sucks. I've had to do it once early on because I knew that this player was going to be a nightmare, and I knew that this player was going to be a problem. And the problems persisted over the first handful of sessions, and I had to kick them out. They were poisoning the group. They were a cancer to the group. And I got rid of them. I said, look, we've known each other for 10 years, dude. You're one of my closest friends, but you're wrecking this game. And we have talked and we have talked. I'm dropping you from the game. I'm sorry. And if that hurts us, I'm sorry. But I hope you understand that the rest of the players are getting super frustrated. This is everyone's game. It's such a hard conversation to have. And it hurts. But just approach it cool. Approach it with confidence. But make sure that you are letting them know that you're serious too. Because these games mean a lot to these players. And they want a good time out of it. And if you have somebody just fucking around the whole time, it's going to be a problem. So don't be afraid to have those conversations. Okay, so the timid player. This can be an interesting situation because I've never thought about a timid player as being a problem player in any way. When I was younger, I was very much an introvert. I wanted to be a part of things, but I didn't. I would rather be by myself playing solitaire and listening to Neil Diamond albums. That's how I grew up. I didn't really get involved in a lot of the big stuff like that. And if you have a player who's come to your game, that's step number one. But they can potentially be one of those players who is just there to follow along. They're just there to be part of the group. They're not really wanting to be the center of things. They don't want to be the big, the big hero or anything like that. They don't want a lot of attention drawn to themselves. They're just there to play, and they don't want to be a big deal out of it, or to make a big deal out of it. Now, that's totally cool. In my opinion, that's fine. I'm not going to force these players into, being some big showman. I'm not going to force them into being the center of attention because I'm pretty gifted at reading a room and reading a person, and I can tell if a person just doesn't want that. But it doesn't stop me always from trying at least a little bit. Sorry, dude, I'm going to pick on you in a little bit on this one. I have a player whose character name is Olram. Now, being a magician, that's funny as hell to me. I'll explain some other day, or you can look it up. Look up Olram in regards to magic. You'll find out why it was so ironic and funny that he was named that. But Olram is I'm not going to tell you his name, but he is an awesome dude. Such a cool guy, just a teddy bear of a guy. And everybody in the group just adores him. But I mean, we're all super tight in my current group anyway. We're all really good friends, I think. We've all become really close, and we've all become really good friends. And he is just such a cool dude, and he brings so much to the table. Now, I don't necessarily consider him the timid player, as it were, but it was the kind of situation where he wouldn't really come out of his shell a lot. He was just there to follow along. Now, part of that had to do with the fact that he hadn't played D&D since, I don't know, since Carter was in office or something, I don't know. But he hadn't played in a very long time. And I guess he may have been a little nervous about jumping into a game. Once he found out that none of us had the slightest clue what the hell we were doing, then we were fine. But again, it was almost like he was there to follow along. He didn't want to make waves. He didn't want to, rock the boat and turn it into left field or anything. But I wanted him to be more of a part of it. And so the situation came up quite recently, actually. Now, we had been stuck in a carnival a handful of sessions ago, a haunted carnival. And it was his insight and his thoughts that got us to the end of this and got us the solution of how to get out of the damn place. Full marks to you, Olram. But I'm like, dude, I really want this guy to have his moment. And I want all of my players to have their moment. That one thing that everybody else at the table will remember them for, rather than just being another player. Oh my God, some of the characters I've got right now. Nix is a broken character. God knows what's going on in his life. I mean, I do. I know his backstory, and I'm writing it into everything. But wow, what a player. And what a character, what a story. And everybody's just really entranced with all of it. Then we've got Philippus, who, again, a great player, and just it's kind of his jam to save everyone and to bring everybody out of the other side of these problems with great fruition. And he's a master of it. Then we've got, we've got some great characters. We've got Rook. We've got Rook, who is a Kenku with morbid ADD. And he has a penchant for stealing peas from the 3-show game of the Carnival Barker. And now peas are his thing. Anybody starts mentioning a bowl of peas, he loses his mind and goes monkey shit over the peas. And we got a bunch of players like that. But Olram, we were kind of looking for that moment. And it showed up pretty recently in a session where his character wanted a tattoo. And we happened to be at Stonehill Inn, and so I really quickly wrote in my head this barbarian who was there, rather blue-looking barbarian, but that's an internal joke, named Braden. And who was a big, strapping, Scottish, lovely man who was also absolutely fabulous in every way. And they became quite good friends. And, Olram could not make it to the session next week. And so we decided that as we were leaving Stonehill Inn, we found him and Braden drunk on the floor spooning. And this is now how that character is remembered. And it's brought him out a little bit. It's given him a little bit more attention and a little bit more focus to his character. Because you don't want to run the risk of this character being the only important one in the group, or this character being the only one important in the group. Or Kairu, who I think, unless my math is wrong, still reeks of rat piss. But that's a story for another time. Our wonderfully stinky friend. But so the timid player, read them. See if they really do want to be more focused. Give them that. Tweak the game just a little bit. Give them a little bit of love. Give them a little bit of attention. And see if it's for them. See if it's something that they want. And see if it's something that they jive with. If not, you can back off and just let them be them. I'm never going to be like, you're too timid, get the hell out of my game. You're not coming dressed in loincloths and, with a screaming Scottish accent and a giant axe ready to kill everything. No, you let these players be who they want to be. And if that's the character they want to be and that's how they want to play, let them do it. Because forcing somebody into a situation they really don't want to be in, especially a timid player, you're going to lose the player. They're going to have a horrible time, and they're going to walk out on you. And maybe it's the sales guy in me, I don't know, something like that, but I hate the thought of losing a player. It's like losing a sale or losing a client to me. I want to do everything I can to make it a good experience for them. And so I'm going to give everybody those moments to bring them in a little bit. That's kind of my thoughts. And here's the thing, as with a lot of things that I discuss, this could be wildly apocryphal and completely fucking wrong. It might not work for you. It has worked for me, which is one of the reasons I wanted to bring it to you, because this is all stuff I learned from business and from magic, from being a performer. And it's worked for me, so this is why I wanted to share some of these with you. So it works for me, maybe it'll work for you, or you can throw it out the window. It's up to you. Okay, guys, so I'd like to thank you for once again joining me on this video and giving me a little bit of your time. I hope that some of these ideas may be a little bit of help to you, and some of them I'm just completely ranting like a madman, which is par for the course for me. But let me know if there's other kind of problem players that you've run into, and let's discuss them. Leave me some comments, or you guys can probably figure out how to get a hold of me. DMNoob.com, or just find me. You'll find me out there. I'm everywhere. And I'm going to do more videos about this, but I hope some of this has been a little bit helpful to you. I've got a lot more ideas for other videos. If there's something you want to see, please let me know. Or if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know. And as always, as is the ubiquitous cry of every YouTuber, please like, comment, and subscribe. Or, preferably all three, but if you can only do one of them, then you suck. No, please just like, comment, subscribe, all of that good jazz. It gives me hope that I will have the energy to do more of these. I've got plenty of ideas. I've got notebooks full of ideas. So thank you for joining me, and we will see you again soon. Have a good night.